Okay, let's dive into this. You know, when we think of ancient hunting, it's really easy to picture a simple, kind of desperate scramble for food. But if we look at the Sangam era of ancient Tamalakam, well, we uncover something entirely different. We're actually looking at a highly sophisticated tactical exercise. In the ancient texts, we see that hunting was absolutely not just a means of survival. It was literally the foundation of early warfare, a profound symbol of bravery and a total cornerstone of their society. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how these ancient communities mastered the wild. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with beyond mere survival. Then, we'll cover tactics of the hunt, inspect their ancient arsenal and hounds, step into scenes from literature, and finally, uncover the culture, worship, and sharing of early Tamil society. Section 1. Beyond mere survival. Now, what's really interesting about this double purpose is how it shaped their daily lives. For the folks living in the deeply forested Mullai and the mountainous Kurinji landscapes, mastering the hunt had two very distinct goals. On the one hand, yes, we have sustenance. They were hunting boars, deer, monitor lizards, rabbits, and birds just to feed their communities. But on the other hand, there's protection. They were actively defending their millet crops and their vital cattle herds from literal apex predators: tigers, elephants, and bears. So they weren't just looking for a meal, right? They were fierce protectors of their entire territory. And because they were constantly facing off against such formidable beasts, this daily reality had a massive secondary effect. Think about it. Coordinating a strategy to take down a massive, charging elephant or a highly lethal tiger. That wasn't just farm defense. It naturally trained these villagers. The rapid communication, the raw bravery, the tactical maneuvering required in the dense forest, these exact hunting methods formed the absolute bedrock of ancient Tamil military strategy. The legendary warriors we read about in their grand historical battles, they honed their skills first in the wild. Section 2. Tactics of the hunt. Let's move to and see how this builds into an incredible group tactic known as vetum. This is where the entire village gathers, essentially acting as a unified, highly tactical military unit. Step 1. They bring out loud traditional instruments like the tharai, the thapatai, and the kombu horn. Step 2. They create an absolutely deafening wall of noise. Just pure chaos. Step 3. This wall of sound is strategically used to drive terrified animals in one highly specific, predetermined direction. And finally, Step 4. The hunters wait there to seamlessly surround and capture their prey. It's literally a masterclass in psychological and spatial control. But you know, they didn't just rely on brute force and noise. Actually, they had a deep, calculated understanding of animal behavior. Check out these specialized techniques. For massive threats like elephants and tigers, they engineered deep pits right along known animal paths, perfectly camouflaging them with leaves. For smaller aerial prey, they wove delicate, specialized string traps called cunny. And then there was the ambush. A hunter would patiently hide high up in a tree or deep within the brush near a water source, perfectly still, just waiting for the exact right moment to strike when the animal came to drink. Section 3. Ancient Arsenal and Hounds. So what did they actually use? The Sangam era hunters utilized a highly refined, fiercely sharp iron arsenal, tailored perfectly to those dense Kurinji and Mullai landscapes. The bow and arrow was their primary weapon of choice, and incredibly, they often used poisoned tips, known as nachukanai, for maximum lethal efficiency against huge targets. For close-quarters combat against charging boars and deer, they wielded spears and the traditional vel. Swords and axes were totally multi-purpose, essential not just for the hunt itself, but for clearing thick, tangled forest paths. And finally, massive nets were deployed to capture smaller animals, like rabbits and birds, completely alive. Every single tool had a very specific, vital purpose. So the crucial point is, the hunters definitely didn't face the wild alone. A huge element of their success was the Njamali. These were fierce, highly specialized Sangam-era hunting dogs. And the literature describes them vividly, too. They had wide mouths, incredibly sharp claws, blistering running speed, and unwavering bravery. These weren't just pets lounging around the village fire. They were essential, highly trained combat partners, bred specifically to chase down and corner wild beasts. Section 4. Scenes from Sangam literature. Okay, so how do we actually know all of these incredible details? Well, it's because these epic hunts were immortalized in the rich, descriptive poetry of the era. And the sheer diversity of these accounts is just astounding. We have the Purananuru, which describes boar hunter as accompanied by dogs that literally leap with the ferocity of tiger cubs. Then the Kurinji Part 2 details a defensive hunt where those dogs brilliantly surround a fierce, land-tearing boar. In the Malapata we get into the truly dangerous stuff. Hunters perched on high tree platforms, known as paran, firing poisoned arrows down at massive elephants and tigers. And finally, the Natrina brings us right back to daily sustenance, vividly describing a humble monitor lizard being pulled from a pit by its tail and cooked in its own rich fat for a grand feast. I really want to focus on just how powerful these weapons were. There's this quote, directly inspired by the Malaipa Kadam, which tells us that the Nachu Kanai, the poisoned arrow, loosed from a good, strong bow, strikes with such intense force that the very rock shatters behind it. I mean, no way, right? Just imagine the sheer kinetic energy, the tension of the bow, and the incredible physical strength of the hunter required to execute a shot like that deep in the jungle. And the chaos on the ground was equally intense. The poet Kabilar, in the Kurinji Patu, writes of a massive wild boar living among thorny bushes, fiercely tearing up the earth with its massive tusks. Into this violent, chaotic scene charge the hunter's dogs, their sharp teeth bared, boldly surrounding the enraged beast, until the hunter can close in and strike. It perfectly reinforces the intense, raw bravery required by both the human hunter and his canine Njamali. Section 5. Culture, Worship, and Sharing. Now, for all the violence and action of the hunt, the overarching framework reveals the deeply spiritual heart of these ancient people. The hunt was never just a secular, purely transactional event. It was actually deeply bookended by spiritual devotion. Before the hunters ever stepped foot into the dangerous forest, they worshipped their clan deity, Kotrovai. And critically, when they returned victorious, they held a post-hunt thanksgiving to that exact same deity. This proves that defending the village and providing food was viewed as a sacred, solemn duty, totally embedded in their religious life, rather than just some sport or chore. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute best part of Sangam society, the concept of pagatunal. This was the noble, deeply ingrained cultural practice of equally sharing the hunted meat among every single member of the village. Think about that for a second. A hunter might show extraordinary individual bravery, literally risking his life to bring down a boar, but his individual glory always dissolved into ultimate community equality. Everyone ate together. So, to bring it all together, what the Sangam literature shows us is a perfectly balanced ecosystem. The Sangam hunt maintained the delicate balance of the forest, it protected the vital agriculture needed for society to grow, and, most importantly, it fostered a profound, unshakable culture of community sharing. These ancient practices shaped the social, military, and spiritual fabric of early Tamil society in ways that resonate all the way through history. I want to leave you with this thought. If early Tamils viewed something as perilous and demanding as the hunt, not as an individual conquest to be hoarded, but as a shared communal duty that inherently ended in absolute equality, what can their ancient practice of Pagutunal teach our highly individualistic modern society about how we manage and share our own resources today? It's a fascinating question and one for sure worth exploring long after this explainer ends. Thanks for joining me and keep learning.